Discover the amazing transformation inside a cowboy's cabin. A neighbor's abandoned bride exposed. Jack Turner gripped the aging tools in his calloused hands, sweat beading on his forehead as he surveyed the dilapidated old cabin nestled among the Texas plains. This cabin was once alive with laughter and memories, but now it stood as a shadow of his past, a constant reminder of the warmth he had lost in a divorce that twisted his heart. The townsfolk whispered about him in hushed tones, their pity palpable. They revered his rodeo glory, but the remnants of loneliness hung around him like a heavy cloak, stifling as he wrestled with his emotions. As he pried open a sunken floorboard, a glint caught his eye. Jack paused, heart thumping in his chest, his thoughts racing. What if it was something meaningful? A chance to recreate his joy? Removing the board, he unearthed an ornate music box, its surface dusted with years of neglect. Curiosity tightened his stomach. He remembered the tales of the cabin's past, old stories of love and loss intertwining. But none struck him harder than Emily S. Victor's fiancé, who had disappeared before her wedding day, vanishing like smoke in the wind. Opening the delicate clasp, Jack unwittingly unleashed a nagging sense of fate. Inside lay a faded photograph of Emily, her joyful smile caught forever in time. A knot twisted in his chest. How could someone so full of life go missing? This was not just some old relic. This was a haunting reminder of dreams abandoned and lives unfulfilled. The weight of her story infiltrated his thoughts, igniting a flicker of determination within him. Could he uncover the truth about her disappearance? Would digging for answers be worth the trouble, or would it only lead him deeper into despair? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The search soon spiraled into an obsession, or perhaps a lifeline. Each conversation with townsfolk felt like pulling on a thread woven through Emily's tragic tale, until the very fabric of their lives began unraveling. The glances exchanged over dinner tables when Victor's name surfaced, the hushed conversations that swirled around Emily's family, all exposed layers of deceit that Jack believed ran deep. He realized they, too, fought silent battles under the weight of wealth and reputation, much like his own fight against the stigma of divorce. With every clue he unearthed, unease pulsed beneath the surface. The closer he got to the truth, the more he questioned what he truly wanted. In the dim light of the cabin, he could almost hear Emily's laughter echoing, as if it were a grim reminder of what was at stake. If Emily's story was a tangled web of broken promises and societal chains, then what of his own? Faced with those heart-wrenching similarities, he couldn't shake off the feeling that the lines between love and freedom, community and isolation were terrifyingly blurred. As Jack's heart raced with revelations, he discovered a letter tucked inside the music box one addressed to him. Unearthly possibilities swirled in his mind, setting off jolts of pain and curiosity. What secrets would it expose? The prospect sent a chill down his spine, a heavy foreboding that hinted at revelations that could unravel more than just societal fabric. Would he sacrifice what little he had left, or could he pull the town from its cycle of ignorance, illuminating the truth about both Emily and his own heartache? Jack's hands trembled as he unfolded the letter. The paper was yellowed with age, yet the ink was startlingly vivid, almost vibrant against the muted tones of his surroundings. He could feel the weight of Emily's unfulfilled dreams bearing down on him like a saddle, pressed tight by the weight of time. With each word he read, a part of him felt unraveled, and yet somehow invigorated. This was more than just a quest for truth. It was a blazing beacon guiding him out of his own shadows. The letter revealed Emily's hopes and fears, brimming with sincerity. She spoke of feeling trapped, weighted by expectations not her own, a painful parallel to Jack's own recent past. Her words echoed back to him in the dusty cabin, filling the silence of regret with a vibrant urgency. He absorbed every line, wishing he could somehow reach out and grasp the spirit of the woman behind them. Each sentence ignited a resolve within him that he had thought shattered forever. Why had he suffered in silence for so long? He had let his divorce define him, allowing the shame of failure to soil his identity. Emily's letter became a mirror, reflecting the essence of dreams not just lost, but waiting to be reclaimed. It prompted a question that stirred deep within him. What could he discover about himself if he dared to explore the corners of his own heart? With a renewed vigor, Jack made a plan. He would immerse himself in Emily's story, not as a mere spectator, but as an active participant seeking answers. He envisioned digging deeper into the social fabric that surrounded her life and allowed his own damaged past to meld with her memories. Each conversation with townsfolk would be a step toward personal redemption, a bridge between them woven from shared pain. The following days brought frenetic energy. Jack began visiting prominent locations tied to Emily, her childhood home, the old schoolhouse, and cafes where she had been known to share her dreams with friends. Each interaction was fraught with unease yet invigorating, revealing not only pieces of Emily's narrative but strands of his own identity. He encountered people who had guarded memories like treasure, revealing glimpses of Emily's vibrant spirit, juxtaposed with the mannerisms of their own grief. Jack's inquiries made him confront his own fear of vulnerability. Would he let these painful stories pierce his carefully constructed armor, or would he shield himself from the warmth of human connection? As he dug deeper, confrontation loomed. Victor, the man once engaged to Emily, had returned home like a ghost from the past. Rumors swirled about his role in her disappearance, and Jack felt his heart race every time Victor's name emerged in town. It was another test, one he had to pass if he were to honor both Emily's memory and his own struggles. The day came when Jack decided to confront Victor directly. Sitting in the dimly lit bar, where Victor often lingered after a long day, he felt the weight of the town's expectations pressing down on him like a bull rider facing the gate. In the tension-filled air, the scent of whiskey wrapped around him, igniting fears he thought buried. Would he be able to face this man and demand answers without losing himself in the fray? Taking a steadying breath, Jack resolved to challenge not just Victor, but also the narrative he had let define his existence. It was time to step into the light, reclaim his worth, and confront the tangled web of their intertwined fates. As he moved toward the bar, every heartbeat pulsed with a craving for truth, not just for Emily, but for his own awakening. The moment of confrontation loomed like a storm on the horizon. With Victor in sight, Jack's resolve solidified. What lay ahead could either shatter him completely or pave the way for a harder-won freedom. Would this be the moment he could break through the barriers surrounding them both, or would it lead him into a deeper entrenchment of pain and despair? Jack approached the bar, his heart thudding like a drum echoing in a vast emptiness. Each step drew him closer to the truth, yet the fear of that very confrontation knotted in his stomach. Victor sat alone, nursing a drink, a picture of arrogance mixed with shadows of guilt. Jack could see him from behind. The way his hands twitched when he felt eyes upon him suggested there was more beneath the surface than he was ready to reveal. Taking a deep breath, Jack steadied himself. This was no longer merely about uncovering the mystery of Emily's fate. It was a reckoning for himself. He had spent years wallowing in regret, allowing memories to chain him to failure. Now, he was armed with the clarity Emily's letter provided, a reminder of resilience even when the world felt unbearably heavy. "Victor," Jack's voice came through, steadier than he expected. The room felt charged, like the calm before storm. Victor turned slightly, a skeptical brow raised. Jack pressed onward, ready to uncover the shadows of their shared history. "We need to talk." Victor offered a sardonic smile, one that sent a chill skimming down Jack's spine. "About Emily?" he asked, as if the name itself were a game. "What do you want to hear? That I loved her? That we had a future?" You loved her, right? Then why did you let her slip away? The question came out sharper than Jack meant, born from his realization that love, in its truest form, should never allow someone to feel trapped. Victor leaned back, the facade cracking just enough to glimpse the man beneath. It's complicated, he muttered, his bravado slipping. Jack seized the moment, the opening he needed. Did she feel trapped with you? Did she confide in you about her fears? About feeling lost? Jack's inquiry was relentless. He needed to unravel Victor's web of indifference, to get at the truth that lay beneath. With each word, Jack felt himself rediscover his own voice, coiled in strength and tinged with righteous indignation. No longer was he the shadow of his past, but rather a vessel of someone else's hopes. Every piece of knowledge he gained added a brick to his own foundation of self-worth. Victor's facade shattered for a second, a look of guilt passing over his features. "I didn't know she felt that way. I tried to provide for her in the way I thought she needed. It never occurred to me that it wasn't enough." Jack absorbed the confession, surprised by the undercurrents of vulnerability that colored Victor's words. A knot of compassion twisted inside him. Victor's admission and his own realization about the nature of relationships melded within him, stirring something new, a budding empathy laced with his tireless pursuit of the truth. "You can't just dictate what love looks like," Jack replied quietly, confronting not only Victor but his own past mistakes. "Love is about understanding the other person, about listening, not just providing." We both failed to see Emily as she truly was. The atmosphere shifted. They were no longer just two men tangled in Emily's story. They had become reflections of one another's failures and aspirations. Jack realized this confrontation would not deliver simple answers, but could foster a profound transformation for both of them. As Victor stared into his glass, lost in thought, Jack recognized they were teetering on the edge of an uncharted territory, both troubled and enlightening. He felt the cracks in his memory recede, revealing the man he had forgotten. He could be resilient, inquisitive, and ready for change. But before Jack could probe deeper into Victor's silence, he caught a glimmer of something in Victor's expression. Was it remorse or perhaps fear? Jack's gut twisted with anticipation. "What do you know?" he pressed, the words tumbling from his lips like embers. It would be the moment that defined not just Emily's story, but his own path to redemption. The response lingered just out of reach, but Jack could see it, a moment frozen in time, teetering on the edge of revelations that could redefine everything. Would Victor finally bring to light the hidden truths of their shared history, or leave Jack grappling with unsettling questions? Jack leaned in closer, the tension coiling between them like a taut rope on the verge of snapping. Challenges were never solely about confrontation. They were about unearthing buried truths and reckoning with personal demons. Jack had entered that bar intending to confront Victor about Emily, yet now he sensed an unseen battle waging within himself, a struggle between vengeance and understanding. "You've dodged my questions, Victor," Jack pressed, his voice lower but heavy with urgency. His heart raced, driven by the desire to pull the threads of Emily's story together, but he realized he could easily get lost in the chasm between blame and empathy. "We both know she deserved better than what happened." Victor's fingers trembled lightly as he set his glass down, as if the weight of the moment was too much for him to handle. "You don't think I know that?" His voice cracked, and for the first time, the mask he'd worn began to slip away entirely. I thought I could fix things. I thought being with her in that way was enough." The admission hung in the air, heavy with regret and confusion. Jack recognized a strange camaraderie forming in that moment. They weren't merely rivals for Emily's affections. They were two men scarred by their failures, forged in the fires of lost chances. What started as a desire for retribution had transformed into a quest for understanding, a quest that questioned his own past, choices, and the man he wanted to become. "Fixing isn't about possession. It's about partnership," Jack replied, his voice gaining strength as he stood taller. "You palmed off your version of love onto her without ever truly seeing her. I did the same." The realization stung. He had hoped to arrive at the bar with righteous indignation, but instead, he was trapped in a web of shared accountability that refused to let go. The weight of their exchanged regrets lingered like smoke in an empty room, and Jack's pulse quickened as he felt the currents of sympathy coursing through him. There was a newfound clarity in the chaos brewing within him. He could walk away from this encounter, holding on to the anger and blame. But what would it accomplish? Instead, he wanted to dig deeper, not just for Emily's sake, but for his own redemption. What do you know, Victor? Jack pressed again with a steadiness that surprised even himself. Victor swallowed hard, his eyes visibly searching within. I know she said she was scared of how lost she felt, how she thought she'd never find herself again. The words spilled out, painting a portrait of Emily that made Jack's chest constrict. Each syllable became a brushstroke illustrating a woman who had battled through waves of uncertainty, gripping tightly to fleeting hope. Each moment peeled back layers of Jack's own trauma. The echoes of past mistakes reverberated, forcing him to confront his own fears about love and failures. It was as if every step closer to that truth pushed him further from the shadows of shame he had lived in for so long. Jack felt the metamorphosis beginning to shift from loss to resolve. He understood now that the past, while painful, did not have to dictate his future. He could choose to forge a new path. I never understood what she needed, either. I thought strength was a measure of success. But I realize now it was about humility and willingness. Being lost isn't a sign of weakness, Victor. It's part of being human. Victor's expression slowly morphed from defensive to contemplative. Jack saw the beginning of understanding dawning on Victor, as if some internal conflict was beginning to unravel. But there was more, and Jack felt it in his bones. The longer they stood in this unguarded space, the clearer it became that they were only scratching the surface. What remained unsaid was a gaping chasm filled with painful truths about Emily. Yes, but also about themselves. Jack's instinct urged him forward, pushing through the heaviness to confront whatever lay beyond. The answers he sought seemed to hover just within reach, tantalizingly close but obscured by lingering shadows. What else don't I know? He asked softly, his breath heavy with anticipation. With those words, he knew they stood on the precipice of revelation. But Victor's eyes darted to the door, sensing something that Jack could not. The atmosphere shifted once again, and Jack felt a prickle of anxiety in the air. This encounter was far from over, it was only beginning. Would Victor allow the rest of Emily's hidden truths to surface, or would fear pull him back into silence? Jack's heart raced at the potential of what lurked just beneath the surface, and he steeled himself for whatever revelations awaited them both. Victor's gaze grew distant, as if he were straining to catch a glimpse of something lurking behind the door. Jack followed his focus, but saw only the patrons engrossed in their conversations, unaware of the turmoil brewing between the two men. His stomach twisted. What could be so frightful that Victor would retreat into himself now? Victor, don't shut down on me, Jack urged, leaning forward, eager to penetrate the shell Victor had erected around his fear. This is important. Emily's life depended on us truly seeing her. Victor blinked back at him, the tension like a taut wire stretched across the room. I know more than you think, Jack, but it is not an easy thing to say, he murmured, looking down at his trembling hands. I don't want easy. I want the truth, no matter how difficult, Jack replied, the assertiveness in his tone surprising even him. There was a weight to his words, a steadfastness born from the realization that understanding was the only way forward. Slowly, Victor began to share. Emily, she struggled with her identity after everything. After us. She always felt she was being shaped by the people around her, by me, by you, by everyone but herself. I wanted to be the person who saved her, but I think I only made her feel smaller. The regret in his voice was palpable. Jack felt the sting of Victor's admission. It mirrored his own guilt, intermingling with an unexpected sense of camaraderie. Wasn't he, too, guilty of diminishing Emily's voice when he thought he knew what was best for her? What do you mean by smaller? Jack asked, his heart hammering in his chest as he probed deeper. She used to come alive, talking about her dreams, the things she wanted to achieve. Victor continued, his eyes now glistening with remorse. But with us, I kept thinking that love would be enough. I borrowed her dreams and made them mine. I didn't really listen, Jack. I only heard what I needed to hear. Jack could feel the pieces falling into place. With each revelation, fragments of his own perception chipped away, leaving behind a raw sense of vulnerability. He had buried his own fears beneath the facade of strength, but faced a similar truth. He hadn't fully listened to Emily either. The revelation was jarring and intoxicating, and each word carved paths toward a deeper understanding of both himself and her. Then we failed her, Jack said quietly, his voice thick with emotion. We failed to see her for who she truly was. All this time, I thought I was protecting her, Victor admitted, anguish spilling from him like a waterfall cascading over rocks. But I was just suffocating her. Now, feeling lighter yet heavier, Jack realized that this was not just about Emily's pain. It was about their shared accountability and the burdens that had chained them both. Every truth uncovered was a step toward shedding the guilt that had clung to him for so long. Or maybe, Jack proposed, this is the chance to redeem ourselves, to recognize our faults and help her find her voice again. Victor seemed to ponder this, the lines of worry on his face softening. It was as if they were edging together onto a shared platform of hopes and regrets, forging a connection through mutual understanding. The air grew dense as the two men shared an unspoken agreement. They had awakened to the shared mission they had both shunned before. They would need to support Emily in ways they had failed previously, and together examine their histories for healing. But as Jack opened his mouth to challenge Victor to a pact of sorts, the bar's door swung open again, and a gust of cold air rushed through, bringing with it the scent of rain and a chill that ran down Jack's spine. A figure stepped inside, silhouetted against the dim light, and he straightened with a sudden awareness. Without even knowing who it was, he sensed that this person could disrupt everything they'd just unearthed. Jack's gut tightened. This could be the moment that unraveled everything they'd begun to understand. "Who is that?" he whispered, dread pooling in his stomach as he locked eyes with Victor. "Someone from Emily's past," Victor breathed, as both men turned toward the door, the tension thickening once more, ready to confront yet another layer of hidden truths. The figure stepped further into the bar, the crowd parting like waves before a storm. Jack's heartbeat quickened, the sound of his pulse echoing in his ears as shadows danced across the stranger's face. He couldn't shake the feeling that this person, whoever they were, held a crucial piece of the puzzle that could either shatter or solidify their newfound resolve. Victor shifted in his seat, his previously composed demeanor faltering. Jack could see the flicker of recognition in Victor's eyes, a mix of fear and anticipation that amplified the charged atmosphere between them. "It's him," Victor muttered, almost inaudibly, the reason Emily felt trapped. Jack's stomach dropped. He needed clarity. "You know him?" Victor nodded, his brow furrowed. He was part of that chapter in her life, someone she tried to escape. Processing Victor's words, Jack felt a blend of anger and protectiveness surge within him. Emily had been struggling to break free from their expectations, and now this figure threatened to breach the fragile ground they had started to build. The stakes felt higher than ever as the stranger approached. Jack caught glimpses of features he might have once found: handsome, chiseled jawline, confident stride. Now, they appeared predatory. Jack's instincts ignited. He needed to take the initiative before Victor was consumed by his past. "We have to confront him," he asserted, his voice steady despite the tremor within. "Are you sure?" Victor's hesitance was palpable. He could bring up things that we try to bury. "Yes," Jack said firmly, a determination that surprised even him rising from the depths of his being. He wrestled with his own fears, knowing that confrontation, no matter how daunting, was essential for healing. "Let us not run away anymore. Let us be the protectors Emily needs." Drawing a deep breath, Jack stood, shoulders squared, leaving Victor to grapple with his doubts. As he walked towards the man, he could feel the eyes in the room piercing through him, every gaze a judgment, but he focused on the single task ahead, finding strength in vulnerability. "Who are you, and what do you want from Emily?" Jack's voice rang through the low hum of the bar. The man's gaze turned icy. "And who are you to interfere?" "Emily and I have unfinished business." Unfinished business. The phrase hit Jack like a punch to the gut, igniting a flicker of past insecurities. Had he ever truly understood Emily's struggles? A hum of self-doubt rose within him, but he pushed it aside. This was the moment they had prepared for, the moment to reclaim voices that had been silenced. "I'm someone who knows she needs to break free from people like you," Jack replied, his words steady, anchoring him in resolve. "You're not a part of her life anymore." He noticed Victor inch closer, emboldened by Jack's undeniable courage. The stranger smirked, sizing Jack up. "You think you can protect her? You have no idea what she has been through, what we shared. She was never just yours to save." Victor, now standing beside Jack, broke his silence. "And you were never there when she needed someone to listen. You took her dreams and twisted them." The atmosphere thickened, tension crackling like electricity. Jack exchanged a glance with Victor, neither truly knowing what would come next, but both determined to act. With each word exchanged, they were rediscovering the depths of their own motivations and fears, confronting a man who had personified Emily's past torment. As the confrontation unfolded, Jack's resolve forged a path into contrary emotions: anger, protectiveness, empathy for Emily's choices. The air felt heavy with secrets ready to burst. But before the man could respond, he raised a hand, his expression sharp. "I didn't come here to fight. Emily is in danger, and you two are out of your depths." Unsure of how to react, Jack gulped at the startling turn. "Danger? What do you mean?" Jack's breath caught, the words tasting a dread. "Oh, you'll see soon enough," the man replied cryptically, glancing back at the exit. "Your past may not be done with you either." Jack's heart raced, a knot of unease tightening in his gut. Was this confrontation about to shatter their fragile alliance? Could Edward's appearance truly herald a deeper threat? The moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the possibility that their previous missteps could repeat themselves in ways they never imagined. Just as he prepared for the next words, a loud crash echoed from outside, shaking the bar as foundation. Jack's thoughts spun. What had he just walked into? Jack felt the floor shift beneath him as the loud crash reverberated through the bar. The once muted conversations now a cacophony of shocked whispers. The enigmatic man loomed before him, but Jack's gaze fell to the door where a knot of tightly wound uncertainty began to unravel. This moment, this confrontation, was about more than Emily and the stranger. It was about his own fears resurging in the face of real danger. "Victor, we need to find out what's happening," Jack urged, his voice ascending above the commotion. The past few months had been about confronting shadows, things left unsaid, and promises made. But now, clarity was essential. He turned to the stranger, resolving to find control in this chaos. "What do you know about Emily? Why are you here?" The man's lips curled into a sardonic smile. "She'll always be tangled in our shared history, just like you'll find yourself tangled in the mess she's tried to escape. Keep poking the bear, and you might get bitten." Jack braced himself against the bar, a surge of raw adrenaline jarring his senses. He was no longer just an observer. He was thrust into the arena where the stakes had irrevocably escalated. Calibrating his thoughts from the emotional impulse to the strategic action, he recognized this was a chance to fortify his resolve, not just for Emily, but for himself. But as he searched for a way to redirect the conversation, another crash echoed from outside, this one more jarring than the last. Shattered glass and the sound of raised voices followed, plunging Jack into a moment of primal fear. Instinctively, he fled toward the door, driven by the urge to protect not just Emily, but the community he had reclaimed for himself. "Let us go," he shouted to Victor, who stood rooted in place, clearly wrestling with demons of his own. "We can't let this happen. We have to act." The pair rushed outside, the cool air wrapping around them, displacing the heated tension of the bar. Jack's eyes darted, scanning the scene that lay before him. A vehicle had crashed into a streetlight, and the driver was struggling to escape through a tangle of shrapnel. A small crowd gathered in a semicircle, whispers of shock cascading through the onlookers. Call for help, Jack instructed Victor, snapping into a role that felt instinctive yet foreign. The very essence of responsibility began to anchor the chaotic whirlwind around him. He pushed forward, assessing the situation. With each step, Jack felt the pulse of adrenaline merging with clarity. The fear that had previously grappled with his heart transformed into a burgeoning sense of purpose. Here, at this moment, he could be the protector, could be the hero not just for Emily, but for the community, for himself. "Hey, can you get out?" Jack yelled, reaching the car. The driver looked up, panic-stricken, and Jack felt an electric urge to defuse the sudden dread pressing into the air. "We're here to help. Just stay calm." Images flashed through his mind. Emily's struggles, Victor's haunted look, and now this inexplicable accident. What was it about this moment that linked all their histories, all their fears? Lifting the back door, he braced himself against the jagged metal. "Push," he shouted, using sheer strength to pry it open, aided by adrenaline. The driver scooted towards Jack, and an inexplicable surge of empowerment filled him. This act of courage connected him to the core of who he was meant to be, a pillar amidst chaos, an agent of change. As the crowd rallied to help, the stranger's cryptic warning echoed in Jack's mind. Was this wreck just an accident, or was it part of something far more sinister? As Jack glanced back at Victor, who had finally joined him on the scene, a haze of unspoken questions clouded the air between them. "Do you think this is just coincidence?" Jack asked, heart racing with the implications. Before Victor could respond, another figure appeared at the edge of the group, their silhouette familiar but unsettling. Jack's breath hitched. Was this another chapter of Emily's past returning? What did this mean for their efforts to rebuild and move forward? The answers he sought were closer than he realized, and yet the weight of uncertainty loomed ever large. Jack stood firm, eyes locked onto the figure emerging from the shadows. The anxiety that gripped him shifted into a blend of determination and dread. He recognized the line separating him from the chaos deeper than the tangles of metal before him. It was a line between who he was and who he was becoming. He had stepped into uncertainty. His life was a mosaic patching together fragments of vulnerability, yet he now bore the responsibility to confront what lay ahead. The figure drifted closer, revealing the familiar features of a woman he had not seen in years. Claire, his former neighbor, had once exuded a palpable energy that captivated all around her. Now, anxiety veiled her face marred by distress. Her gaze darted from the crowd to Jack, a mix of recognition and fear clouding her expression. "Jack, you need to leave," she urged, her voice trembling. "They're coming for us." The words hit Jack like a wave, rippling through his thoughts. Who were they? And why was Claire caught in this web of fear? The instinct to protect ignited anew, intensifying the adrenaline coursing through him. "What do you mean? Who is coming?" But Jack's questions hung in the air, unanswered as dread settled in unevenly, spilling over into the space between them. Each heartbeat pressed against the urgency to uncover the tangled truths behind the welcome and unwelcome returns of uncertain pasts. He felt the burden of empathy borne into his chest. Claire was trapped in her own shadow, just as he had felt ensnared in his, clinging to potential that he was finally beginning to embrace. "Listen," he said, struggling to stay calm. "Whatever is happening, we can face it together. You don't have to go through this alone." Forcing a connection through the fear, he remembered the isolation he had endured. It wasn't merely about the dangers emerging from darkened pasts. It was about forging resilience in moments where the collapsing walls threatened to overwhelm him. This was not just about Emily anymore. Claire's presence reshaped his perspective, pointed him toward his potential to be a beacon in moments wrought with peril. Suddenly, The outside world sharpened, the screams morphed into panic, and Jack filled with resolve. He could feel the weight of the circumstances call for action. Anticipation was tangible. Victor, we need to make a plan. I can't let this spiral out of control. Are you sure? Victor asked, the concern in his tone underlined by the reality that both men faced. Absolutely. This is bigger than any of us, I can feel it, Jack affirmed. He understood that clarity amid chaos could forge pathways through their intertwined histories. Jack turned his focus to Claire, urgency cascading from him. What do you know? What happened before this? As she hesitated, Jack sensed the friction between her fears and the truth wanting to come forth. This moment hinged on action, on engaging the fears instead of retreating from them. He wondered if confronting danger was just as powerful as opening up about their fragmented lives. Before Claire could muster any words, headlights flooded the scene as another vehicle barreled toward them, abrupt and menacing. Jack's heart raced, instinct urging him to act against an encroaching threat. "Get back," he shouted, taking a step toward the advancing vehicle, ready to protect those around him even as it blurred the lines of his own anxieties. The past and present collided in a whirlwind of uncertainty, pulling him again into the fray. In that instant, clarity struck. This was not merely about confronting external dangers, but about redefining who he was as a person. Jack could either retreat into familiar shadows or use this chaos to emerge as a true protector, standing firm at the edge of uncertain futures. But would he have the courage to stand once more? As the headlights bore down on them, that question loomed just as heavily as the darkness that had enveloped his past. The vehicle's headlights sliced through the darkness, illuminating the tension etched on Jack's face. Time slowed, and a rush of instinct overwhelmed reason. He had always been a man of calculated decisions, but now, with Claire's fearful presence at his side, the primal urge to protect surged to the forefront. As the car skidded to a halt, Jack's heart pounded in his chest, the chaotic rhythm reinforcing his resolve. The door swung open, and a figure emerged, a man clad in black, his features obscured by a low cap. Jack's instinct screamed at him. He didn't recognize the newcomer, but the palpable menace he radiated felt all too familiar. Had they come for Claire? Or perhaps for him? The realization that the threat could be rooted in their shared past ignited a new sense of urgency within Jack. "Who are you?" Jack demanded, stepping forward, asserting his newfound stance as protector, a figure defined not by fear but by action. The man regarded him with a twisted smirk but said nothing. Instead, he lifted a handheld device, presumably gleaming with technological implications far beyond Jack's grasp. The atmosphere thickened, electric with unspoken challenges. With a hurried glance at Claire, Jack felt the anxiety in the air distort into a sliver of purpose. "We need to go," he said. "Now." Claire nodded, her eyes wide with uncertainty but filled with a flicker of trust. Just as they turned to run, the stranger spoke, his voice low and chilling. "You can't escape the past, Jack. It'll find you." The words echoed in Jack's mind, a brutal reminder of the torment he had tried to leave behind. Those words were more than a threat, they were a reflection of his own struggles, revealing a dark truth he had sought to bury. The concept of breaking free from the past felt like a facade. The darkness seemed to be imprinting itself more deeply with every decision he made. "Don't listen to him," Claire shouted, grabbing Jack's arm with desperation. The brush of her hand grounded him. Her trust anchored him amid the growing storm of doubt. He realized he had a choice, not just to run, but to face whatever had been cultivated in loud silence. With careful resolve, he stood his ground. "You're right," Jack called back, his voice steady. "I can't escape it, but I refuse to be its prisoner any longer. You want to control me." The man's expression shifted, surprise etching lines across his face. Jack could feel his pulse quicken, not from fear, but from a thrilling realization of his power. This moment was pivotal. The confrontation wasn't solely external. It was about breaking free from shackles that had bound him for too long, a declaration that he would no longer hide behind the veils of past failures and regrets. "Let me show you what we're really made of," Jack muttered to Claire, gathering his bearings. The response to the stranger's taunts lay within him, a long-neglected courage resurfacing in ways he hadn't anticipated. They burst into action, weaving between shadows and fragments of chaos. Jack forged a path ahead, eyes keenly tracing their surroundings, while Claire followed closely, her will sharpening at his side. It was more than a physical flight. It was a pursuit of reclaiming agency over their lives, one step at a time. But just as they found a moment's respite behind an old cargo crate, a chilling realization dawned on Jack. This man was not alone. Faint echoes of others approached, footsteps measured and intentional, cutting through the stillness like knives. The game had changed. New stakes were on the table, not just Jack and Claire's freedom, but their very existence. This was no longer merely a confrontation with the past. It was a transformative moment of reckoning, one that compelled Jack to rediscover not just his strength, but his untapped potential. As they prepared to face the oncoming tide, Jack wondered, what other hidden parts of himself would emerge when pushed to the brink? The echoes of the past grew louder, and with them, the promise of revelation began to blossom. The time had come to face the truth hidden behind shadows, one that could either forge him anew or unleash his darkest fears once more. Under the dim glow of the streetlights, Jack stood resolute, adrenaline coursing through his veins, a bulwark against the shadows of uncertainty that loomed before him. This was the moment he had been preparing for confrontation, not just with a sinister figure from Emily's past, but with his own history steeped in regret and fear. "Stay close, Claire," he whispered, feeling the weight of responsibility anchor him. The resolve that had begun to blossom within him, nurtured by his journey through Emily's story, was now a full bloom, surging forth with an untamed intensity. The shadowed figure advanced, flanked by a couple of others whose expressions were unreadable. Jack could feel the heavy anticipation in the air, electric with the potential for change. It was time to defy the past that had sought to ensnare him not as a victim, but as an empowered adversary. "You don't scare me," Jack declared, his voice unwavering despite his racing heart. The words carried the strength of everything he had uncovered about himself. The empathy, the courage, the lessons from Emily and Victor. He would not fold. He would fight. With each step, clarity crystallized within him. All those months spent digging through the layers of hurt and truth, the discoveries about love and neglect, none of it had been in vain. He could feel Emily's spirit intertwining with his own, instilling him with comfort that bolstered his strength. "Jack," Claire pressed, urgency threading her words, "we need to find a way out of this." "Follow my lead," he replied, turning slightly to meet her gaze. In that fleeting moment, Jack saw that the bonds of shared struggles had forged a connection that placed them on equal ground. Together, they could harness their past to conquer this present threat. The men advanced, and Jack could hear their intentions measured and deliberate. "It's time to face the truth," the lead figure said, voice laced with mockery, yet Jack discerned deeper layers, the soft hum of vulnerability submerged beneath bravado. "Some truths are better left buried, don't you think?" Jack retorted, pushing through the silence that reigned. To confront the man was to confront a part of himself he once feared, fear of inadequacy, fear of being wrong, fear of being weak. That time was past. A subtle shift occurred in the stranger's demeanor. Surprise flashed briefly across his face before it was veiled by irritation. "You think you can protect her?" He scoffed, but Jack sensed uncertainty underneath. "I'm not protecting just her. I'm reclaiming my own life, my own dreams, no more waiting in the shadows," Jack replied, the exhilaration of his newfound purpose igniting within him. With the courage of a man reborn, Jack advanced towards the figure, closing the distance. The specter of failure that once haunted him faded beneath the light of determination. If Emily felt trapped, it was partially because of men like you, men who mistake power for love. Expectations swirled around him, but Jack felt liberated from them. We cannot confine others to our dreams anymore. It's time for you to face that truth, just as I've had to confront my own mistakes. The air crackled. Jack no longer sought vindication. He wanted authenticity, a reconciliation that could lighten the burdens weighing upon them all. Through the shadows of confusion and doubt, Jack shone brightly, illuminating the path forward. A chuckle escaped the man's lips, but it was hollow and devoid of conviction. You think your bravado changes anything? Not bravado. Clarity, Jack countered, feeling the tides of transformation coursing through him. He could sense the ebbing power of the sinister figure, a shift in the balance as Jack's certainty forged a new reality. The past no longer controlled him. He was ready to dictate his own narrative. Suddenly, tires squealed as vehicles pulled up nearby, unexpected aid appearing through the darkening streets led by Victor and townsfolk, each holding cell phones aimed toward the scene, capturing what was unfolding. The community he had once felt alienated from stood at the precipice, ready to reclaim their narrative alongside him. "Jack, we're here," Victor called out, hinting at the profound strength found in support. Jack turned, seeing familiar faces full of empathy, each one no longer just an inhabitant of the town, but an integral part of his journey toward acceptance. The men surrounding Jack visibly faltered, eyes darting between Jack and the gathering crowd, a humorless retreat settling upon them. Suddenly, their confidence began to crack under the reality of accountability in the shifting balance of power. Jack felt a burgeoning satisfaction. He had transformed from a heartbroken cowboy into a man ready to fulfill his potential. If you thought the past was going to keep us quiet, you were mistaken. We will call upon the truths we've obscured, never to silence them again. Turning, Jack grasped Claire's hand, feeling her affirmation pulse in the connection between them. They had stood at the edge together, ready to reclaim their lives from the grip of fear. As the men retreated into the shadows, Jack exhaled deeply, a final release of all the pent-up doubt and uncertainty. He had not only confronted his past, but charted a clear course toward understanding, compassion, and growth. In that pivotal moment, he felt the wellspring of self-belief surge through him. "Let us go home," he said, voice steady and filled with promise. Home was not just a physical place, but the spirit of resilience he carried within the essence of who he had become. He had conquered his own shadows, harvested understanding, and emerged not only as a protector, but as a beacon of possibility for everyone who had endured storms of their own. Jack Turner was ready, not just to face the world, but to thrive within it. Now is the moment you need to subscribe to the channel to not miss these exclusive emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and let us keep creating powerful stories. Comment your reactions and theories about Jack's incredible conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear this triumphant transformation. Together, let us keep spreading these inspiring messages.